Aging. A word we all know, yet few of us truly understand until it arrives and makes its home in our bones, our hearts, and our daily lives. From the outside, aging is often painted with soft colors: wisdom, experience, gentle reflection. People speak of golden years, as though growing old were a reward for simply surviving the decades. But beneath that hopeful imagery lies a much heavier truth, one that is rarely spoken about, even more rarely prepared for. The hardest part of getting older is not the wrinkles or the gray hair. It is not the birthdays that keep stacking one on top of another like bricks on the shoulders. It is something deeper, something quieter, something that creeps in when the lights go out and the world feels distant. The hardest part of aging is the invisible weight of loss, loneliness, and invisibility, the reality that no one warns you about until you are standing in the middle of it. The silent losses. Aging is not one single event. It is a collection of small funerals that accumulate across the years. At first, you lose the little things: the ease of climbing stairs, the sharpness of memory, the comfort of waking without pain. Each loss feels small, tolerable, dismissible. But over time, they add up, and suddenly you realize that the body you once lived in so freely has become a cage of limitations. And then the losses deepen. Friends pass away. Relatives move on. The neighborhood you once knew changes. Unfamiliar faces take the places of old companions, and you begin to feel like a stranger in your own life. The hardest part of getting older is not simply that people die, it's that the world forgets you while you are still alive. The shrinking world. When you are young, the world is wide. Your calendar is full, your phone rings often, invitations arrive, and plans are made. But as the years climb higher, the world shrinks. At first, it is just a little. Fewer dinners out, fewer long trips. Then, slowly, the radius of your world becomes smaller and smaller until many days are spent entirely within the walls of your home. The once vast universe of possibilities narrows to a few rooms, a favorite chair, a single window looking out at the street. And with this shrinking comes a kind of suffocation, a sense that life is slipping past, happening elsewhere, beyond your reach. The hardest part of aging is not just physical decline, it is the shrinking of your life into corners you never imagined would be your only world. Loneliness. The unspoken epidemic, perhaps the cruelest weight of all, is loneliness. No one tells you how loud silence can become. No one prepares you for the sound of a house that never echoes with voices anymore, where the only footsteps are your own. It is one thing to be alone. It is another to feel unwanted, unseen, forgotten. Loneliness in old age is not merely the absence of company, it is the deep ache of feeling erased from the story of the living. There are millions of elderly people across the world who spend entire days without a single conversation. The phone does not ring. The mailbox is empty. The television becomes both a companion and a reminder that other lives are being lived, while yours feels paused, overlooked, and yet people rarely speak of this. Society speaks of healthcare, pensions, and medical advances. But the epidemic of loneliness among the elderly is left in the shadows, quietly stealing years from lives that could have been lived with meaning and connection. The fear that lingers growing old also brings with it a fear that lingers in the back of the mind, the fear of dependency. For decades, you lived as your own anchor. You made decisions, you worked, you cared for others. But now, the possibility looms that you may one day need someone else to dress you, feed you, bathe you. The dignity of independence, once unquestioned, begins to feel fragile, hanging by a thread. The hardest part of aging is not always the loss itself, but the anticipation of loss, the waiting for the day when you will no longer be able to live on your own terms. This fear creeps into every moment, making each stumble, each forgotten word, each doctor's visit feel like a warning of the storm that is coming. The invisibility of old age. Perhaps the deepest wound of all is invisibility. When you are young, you are seen by family, by colleagues, by strangers. You are part of the fabric of life. But as you age, the world begins to look past you. Clerks in stores rush you. Drivers honk at you. Doctors sometimes speak to your children instead of to you. In a society obsessed with youth, the elderly are often treated as if they are already halfway gone, as if their voices matter less, their stories irrelevant, their presence an inconvenience. This invisibility cuts deeper than physical pain, because every human being longs to be seen, to be heard, to matter. And when the world stops looking, when people stop listening, you begin to wonder if you even exist in the eyes of society anymore. Yet, within this darkness, there is still a glimmer of light. Because while aging brings loss, it also brings perspective. The very hardships of growing older reveal truths that the young cannot yet see. The hardest part of aging may be the shrinking of life, but it also forces you to notice the small details others overlook. The beauty of a morning sunrise, the comfort of a quiet cup of tea, the way the world softens at dusk. The loneliness of aging may cut deeply, but it also teaches you the value of connection when it does arrive. The miracle of a single kind word, a smile, a phone call. The invisibility of old age may be painful, but it frees you from the vanity of being constantly judged. For the first time, perhaps you can exist without pretense, without performance, just yourself, raw and true. The weight of memory. One of the heaviest burdens of age is not only the body that slows, but the memory that begins to blur. At first, it is small, forgetting where you put the keys, forgetting the name of a neighbor. But, as the years grow long, memory itself begins to feel fragile, slipping like sand through open hands. And memory is not just information. Memory is identity. It is the anchor that holds you to who you are, the bridge that connects you to your past, to your family, to your sense of self. When memory fades, it feels as though pieces of the soul itself are being stolen. For the elderly who live long enough, memory loss is one of the cruelest thieves. It does not strike all at once like a lightning bolt. It erodes slowly, quietly, like waves against stone. You do not notice at first, until one day you cannot remember a name, a place, a story you once told 100 times. The hardest part of aging is realizing that you may carry a lifetime of love, loss, laughter, and lessons, and yet be unable to recall them when you most need them. The ghosts of the past. As you grow older, the past grows heavier. The people you loved, the choices you made, the regrets you carry, all of them follow you into the later years like shadows that never leave. For some, these shadows are gentle reminders, tender memories of children playing in the yard, of a spouse smiling across the table, of moments of triumph. But for others, the past can be painful. Regrets take center stage. What if I had lived differently? What if I had said the words I kept locked inside? What if I had loved more, worked less, or chosen another path? The hardest part of getting older is sometimes not the body that weakens or the world that forgets you, but the weight of your own history pressing down, with no way to go back and rewrite it. The isolation of night. There is a particular loneliness that comes only at night. During the day, there are distractions, the rhythm of meals, the noise of television, the passing of neighbors. But when the sun sets and the house falls silent, the weight of solitude becomes unbearable for many elders. The night is long when you have no one beside you. The bed feels larger, the silence sharper, the ticking of the clock louder. And in those hours, the truth emerges most painfully, that you are walking the final years of your journey largely unseen, unheard, and untouched. This is the reality no one speaks about. When you are young, you fear monsters under the bed. When you are old, the monster is silence itself. The fragility of the body. Another. Truth about aging is the betrayal of the body. The hands that once built, carried, and created now tremble. The legs that once ran freely now struggle to rise from a chair. The eyes that once saw clearly now blur. The ears that once caught every sound now hear muffled echoes. And yet, inside the mind, you may still feel young. The spirit remembers youth, but the body does not cooperate. This contradiction, feeling vibrant inside but trapped in a fragile frame, is one of the cruelest ironies of life. It is not simply the pain that hurts, but the loss of freedom. The knowledge that you cannot go where you wish, do what you want, live as you used to. Each decline strips away not just ability, but identity. The diminishing circle. As the years go on, your circle of people grows smaller and smaller. At first, you lose acquaintances, then you lose friends, then siblings, and sometimes even children, until one day you realize that you are the last one left, the final witness to a life once shared by many. This is the loneliness no one prepares you for, being the only one left alive who remembers your youth. Your hometown, your parents, your first love. Your history becomes a story no one else carries. And when you try to share it, the younger generations nod politely, but they cannot understand. The hardest part of aging is not only being alone in the present, but being alone with your memories of the past. The cruelty of time is both a gift and a thief. When you are young, you believe time is endless. You waste days without care, convinced there will always be more. But when you grow old, time speeds up. Weeks vanish, months blur, years slip away as if pulled by unseen hands. Suddenly, you are 70, 80, 90, and you wonder, where did it all go? How did it all pass so quickly? The hardest part of getting older is not just that time runs out, but that you only truly understand its value once it is nearly gone. The indifference of society. Perhaps one of the deepest pains of aging is the way society turns away. When you are young, you are celebrated. Your birthdays are marked with candles and laughter. Your milestones are honored. But when you are old, birthdays become quieter. Calls are fewer. The world moves forward, faster and faster, while you remain still. Elders are often spoken about, but rarely spoken to. Politicians debate their health care. Companies market products to them, yet how often are they truly listened to? How often are their voices invited into the conversation? The hardest part of getting older is realizing that society often values what you do, not who you are. And once you stop producing, stop working, stop being useful in the eyes of the world, it acts as though you have nothing left to offer, when in truth, you hold the wisdom of a lifetime. Even with all this weight, even with the loneliness, the fragility, the invisibility, there is still a quiet resilience in the elderly. There are those who rise each morning, despite the pain, and greet the day with gratitude. There are those who, though their bodies weaken, strengthen their spirit with prayer, reflection, or meditation. There are those who, even in solitude, find beauty in the simplest of things: the song of a bird, the warmth of sunlight on their face, the taste of a hot meal. The hardest part of getting older may be all these losses, but the gift of aging is the clarity of what truly matters. When you strip away the noise, the possessions, the ambitions, you are left with the essence of life: love, presence, gratitude, and peace. The mirror. That lies one of the cruelest realities of aging is the betrayal of the mirror. You wake up, feeling the same spirit you always have inside, the same curiosity, the same emotions, the same hunger for life. But when you walk past the mirror, the reflection startles you. Wrinkles, gray hair, sagging skin. The image feels unfamiliar, as though a stranger were staring back. This disconnect between how you feel and how you look is deeply unsettling. It creates a rift between the spirit and the body, a reminder that time is painting its story on your face whether you consent or not. No one tells you how painful it will be to recognize yourself less and less in the reflection. No one warns you that one day you may look into the mirror and whisper, "Where did I go?" The slow vanishing of independence. Independence is one of the treasures of life. The ability to decide, to act, to move freely, it is the essence of adulthood. And yet, in old age, independence is stolen little by little. First, you give up driving, then carrying heavy groceries, then climbing stairs. And slowly, the list of can't-dos grows longer. At some point, decisions about your own life may even be taken out of your hands. Family members deciding where you will live, what you will eat, what is best for you. The hardest part of aging is not just the body's decline, but the feeling of becoming a child again in the eyes of others, watched over, managed, sometimes patronized. You are still you, yet the world begins to treat you as if you are less. The silence of the phone. There is a unique heartbreak in waiting for a phone call that never comes. When you are younger, your phone buzzes constantly with life. Friends, family, work, plans. But for many elders, the phone grows silent. Days pass without a single ring, weeks without a visit. Each time you glance at the silent phone, a wave of loneliness crashes. It is not the technology itself that matters. It is what it represents. Connection, belonging, proof that someone is thinking of you. The silence of the phone is the silence of being forgotten, and that silence is deafening. The loss of relevance. One of the invisible struggles of old age is the sense of no longer being relevant. In youth and middle age, you contribute, you work, you create, you raise children, you make decisions. Your role is clear. But in old age, many feel pushed aside. Their opinions are not sought. Their stories are dismissed as rambling. Their wisdom goes unheard. Society, obsessed with speed and innovation, often overlooks the slow, steady knowledge of elders. And so many elderly begin to wonder, do I still matter? Does anyone care what I have to say? The hardest part of aging is not just that your body grows weaker, but that the world stops asking for your voice. The body as a battlefield. By the time you reach old age, your body has endured decades of work, strain, and time. It becomes a battlefield of ailments: arthritis, diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure. Each doctor's appointment feels like another reminder that your body is no longer a reliable ally. For some, the daily management of pills becomes a job in itself. Morning doses, afternoon doses, evening doses, all lined up in little boxes. Hospitals become familiar places, surgeries routine. And yet, the cruelest part is not just the pain. It is the unpredictability. Not knowing when the next fall, the next diagnosis, the next hospital stay will arrive. Living with a body that no longer obeys is like living with an enemy under your own skin. The betrayal of sleepin'. Youth. Sleep is a refuge. You close your eyes and drift into dreams, waking refreshed. But in old age, even sleep can become a thief. Insomnia creeps in. Nights stretch long, with hours staring at the ceiling. Sleep comes in short, restless bursts. For some, vivid dreams of the past return, making them wake with tears. For others, sleep is interrupted by pain, bathroom trips, or restless anxiety. And when the sun rises, exhaustion lingers. The simplest tasks of the day feel heavier because the night gave no rest. The hardest part of aging is realizing that even sleep, once a natural gift, becomes another struggle to endure. The weight of regret. When the days behind you outnumber the days ahead, regret can feel overwhelming. Perhaps it is the career you did not pursue, the love you let slip away, the words you never said. Regrets whisper at night louder when you are alone. They paint pictures of what could have been, shadowing the life you did live. The hardest part of aging is not just remembering what you did, but mourning what you never did. The roads not taken, the dreams left unfinished, the time wasted on things that now seem meaningless, and the cruelest truth of all is that time does not give second chances. The loneliness of the holidays. For many, holidays become the most painful days of the year. What was once filled with family, laughter, traditions, and warmth can turn into a day of silence. The table that once overflowed with food and voices now sits empty. The tree has fewer gifts, the room fewer faces. And when the world outside is celebrating, families gathering, children laughing, the contrast makes solitude cut even deeper. The hardest part of aging is not the holiday itself, but the aching reminder of what once was and what will never be again. The quiet strength, and yet, through all of this, there is a strength in the elderly that is often invisible. They endure the loneliness, the pain, the invisibility, and still rise each morning. They face each loss with courage. They adapt, they endure, they carry on. There is a quiet dignity in simply surviving old age, a resilience that few acknowledge. It is easy to celebrate youth, energy, and beauty. But true strength is found in those who face the storms of aging and refuse to surrender their spirit. The world moving too fast, technology, culture, society, it all moves at a dizzying pace. For many elders, the world they once knew is unrecognizable. The devices are confusing. The slang is foreign. The customs have shifted. Once they were at the center of the world's rhythm. Now they feel like observers of a dance they no longer know the steps to. The hardest part is not ignorance, but irrelevance. To be alive in a world that feels like it no longer has a place for you. The courage to keep going. And yet, despite all of this, there is a courage in aging that is rarely spoken of. It is the courage to wake up each day in a body that hurts, to live through the silence of empty rooms, to face memories that bring both joy and pain, to endure invisibility, irrelevance, and the slow loss of independence, and still keep going. There is a quiet, unshakable bravery in the elderly. They live each day with the weight of everything they have lost and the knowledge of what lies ahead, and yet they carry on. That is the resilience of the human spirit. The loneliness of being forgotten. Perhaps the deepest wound of all is not sickness, not frailty, not even death itself, but being forgotten, to walk through the world as though invisible, to speak and not be heard, to exist in silence, unnoticed, as life rushes past. For many elders, the most painful truth is not that their bodies are failing, but that their lives no longer seem to matter to those around them. They gave their years, their love, their effort, and yet in the end, they are left in the shadows. The hardest part of getting older is realizing that the world moves on, even without you. The lessons hidden in pain. But within this suffering lies a profound truth. Aging is not just loss. It is also revelation. Through pain, elders learn patience. Through loneliness, they learn the value of connection. Through decline, they learn humility. And most importantly, through time, they learn perspective, the ability to see life not as a collection of possessions, or accomplishments, or appearances, but as moments of love, laughter, and meaning. This is the wisdom that only age can bring. The hardest part of growing old is not carrying this wisdom, but watching a world too hurried to listen. The grace of acceptance. There comes a point in old age when resistance softens. The fight against wrinkles, the anger at lost strength, the sorrow of empty rooms, all of it eventually is met with a quiet acceptance. This does not mean giving up. It means making peace. It means saying, yes, time has taken much from me, but it has also given me much in return. Acceptance is not weakness. It is grace. It is the ability to hold both grief and gratitude in the same heart. The hidden joys for all the hardships. Old age is not without its secret blessings. There is the joy of slowing down, of watching the sunrise with no rush to leave. The joy of simple pleasures, tea on a quiet morning, a book well read, a bird at the window. The joy of memory, of reliving moments too beautiful to fade. And, most of all, the joy of presence, of realizing that even with less time ahead, each day can still hold meaning, the hardest part, and the greatest gift. So what, truly, is the hardest part of getting older? It is not the wrinkles, not the pain, not the silence. It is carrying the weight of love and loss, of memories and regrets, of wisdom and invisibility, all at once. It is knowing how much you have lived and how little time remains. It is holding in your heart both the beauty and the sorrow of a life almost complete. But within that heaviness lies the greatest gift of all, the clarity to see what truly matters. In the end, aging strips away the illusions. It shows us that wealth is meaningless without love, that success is hollow without connection, that time is the most precious gift we are ever given. And perhaps that is why the elderly, even in their quiet suffering, shine with a certain light, the light of truth, of perspective, of knowing what life is really about. The final reflection. As we reach the end of this reflection, remember this. One day, each of us will walk this path. Each of us will face the mirror that lies, the silence of the phone, the shrinking circle, the betrayal of the body. And when that day comes, may we remember what the elders before us have endured. May we honor their resilience, their dignity, their quiet strength. The hardest part of getting older is real. Yes, but it is also proof of life's greatest beauty, that even in loss, love remains. Even in frailty, courage persists. Even in endings, meaning endures. Because aging, in all its pain, is not just about dying. It is about living fully until the very last moment.